This Central African nation gained its independence almost 12 years ago, but has been experiencing a new kind of existential threat for 5 of them. Extreme flooding in South Sudan has displaced millions of people, subsequently worsening the country's ongoing conflict and food security crisis. The UN estimates that around 2/3 of South Sudan's population of 10 million will not have enough to eat during the lean season in 2023, which runs from April until July. To find out about the crisis firsthand, Mashable spoke to Wendy Ahonda, a young climate activist from South Sudan who has been campaigning with UNICEF for the past few years. In the aftermath of the floods in October 2022, she traveled to flood-struck areas to gather information about the needs and problems of those most affected by the crisis.
Opposite my house, I have these neighbors. Their house is like, the compound is kind of made with bamboo sticks. So whenever it rains, the compound literally just all falls apart. And then again, when the rains are gone, they'll have to refix it. The following day it will rain again, the same thing happens. And it's not only them, even the houses made of mud, they literally have nowhere to stay. And you see people are just running away looking for somewhere to move. But wherever that they go, there is not enough resources. South Sudan is originally like a flat country. So there was flooding before that, but it wasn't like, heavy flooding. At the same time, we're experiencing drought, either an extreme dryness or like too much rainfall received within a short amount of time. And if you really look closely to that, you see how it affects people's livelihoods. Thousands of people are losing homes every day. Most of South Sudan is not educated, so most people rely on agriculture. But ever since the floodings happened and everything, most people are not able to grow crops or anything, and their, plantations were damaged. We also highly depend on livestock, but then with the flooding, it's actually very difficult to do that, and even animals are dying. So it has reached a point whereby people are having nothing to eat, and the children are not even able to go to school because literally everything is so expensive. Like a boat ride is almost $2, let's say, from this side to the other side, and then again going back the other side, which most families cannot afford.
Over 2/3 of the country's population was heavily impacted by the record-breaking rains and floods in October 2022. At that time, so much of the landlocked country was submerged that one of South Sudan's regional capitals, Bentiu, at one point became an island, physically isolated from its surrounding land.
South Sudan is at a level whereby it's highly relying on humanitarian aid. Even the youth, we found some youth actually in a cattle camp. There used to be a place for taking cattle, but it's actually now human beings who have shifted there because their village is very flooded and they have nowhere to stay. So they moved to this cattle camp somewhere in the middle of the River Nile. They moved in there, and then basically the only thing that they feed on is fish.
The floods not only destroyed land and agriculture, but further brought waterborne diseases. The UN reported that the submersion of many boreholes and latrines resulted in water contamination, which put a further strain on South Sudan's already fragile healthcare system. Foreign emergency aid has been helping, but it doesn't provide a sustainable solution.
So I feel like that's something also the world needs to focus on, investing more in building facilities for people in these climate affected places. The emergency food is actually really helping, but I feel like if we learn how to take care of our environment and the loss and damages, I feel like that would actually help us in moving away from only emergencies, because how long are we going to depend on emergencies? It will help us move away from emergencies back to agriculture.
Wendy shared with Mashable that she's seen a lot of devastation, but she still finds hope for the future in the people she meets.
What drives me to continue my work is basically my own passion to see people in a better situation, to see people smiling and actually living a life whereby it's not a privilege to have the basic needs. And also the connections I've made with these people is another thing that motivates me every day to do something about the climate crisis and fighting for climate justice. Firstly, I need all of the people and the policymakers at the COP27 to know that meeting every single year, sitting down at a table and discussing is not doing anything for the climate crisis if action is not taken. They need to go out there themselves, see the crisis, and see in which best way they can solve this. I feel like more solutions would be developed if actually the policymakers were to be able to actually sit in these very places whereby it's heavily impacted by the climate crisis